this is stemming from a conversation that I had with Diane while we were talking. And I think that it might be easier to be conveyed. Hey, what's up, T? It might be easier to be conveyed in a live, because sometimes when you have these topics on it as a discussion, people don't necessarily want to open up. And I'm not necessarily gonna talk about my own issues, but I think that it's a topic that in the Black community we are getting better with discussing, but as a whole we have to be more cognizant of facts. So what happened is we ended up talking about trauma and how it affects us in our relationships and in our family structure and in our friendships. And we, just talked about like experiences that we've had or experiences that we know of and some of the relationships that we've gotten into. And it was pretty, we realized it had to do with the trauma that we endured. It had to do with the trauma that we endured. And it doesn't have to necessarily be like sexual abuse. It doesn't have to necessarily be physical. It could be abandonment. It could even be abandonment by the loss of a parent. Thanks, G. It could be abandonment from the loss of a parent at an early age. It very well could be church hurt. It could be abuse, physical, mental, emotional abuse that you endured as a young child. And one thing we realized was, some of the relationships that we got into, it was because of the trauma that we endured, and whatever it is. So this is across the board. It's not necessarily indicative of my conversation, or it's not necessarily indicative of things that I have been through, or what Dee has been through, but it is more so as a whole, when we have trauma, there are certain things that occur in the body. And of course, I'm not like a biologist, I'm not a therapist, so no, but I can give you some therapy suggestions if you need some. And if you do need therapy, you can go to therapy, well, I don't know what the site is for men, but it's therapyforblackgirls.com if you do need a therapist, or you need to find somebody of color that you need to sort out some things with. And no, just because you go to therapy does not mean you have a mental illness. You just kind of need help in some areas. But back to the topic. We realized, and we were just talking that over the years, we realized that a lot of the trauma that we have is because a lot of the relationships that we get into is because of the trauma that we were, that we endured. So we were talking like, why is it that, because I was like, in my 20s, I always kind of went for the hood dude. I was dating Joe. By God's grace, hopefully the video is not shoddy or anything. But God's graces and prayers of whoever, probably my mama, I didn't succumb to that type of lifestyle, but I did definitely put myself in some situations, or I dated some people I knew that I wasn't supposed to be dealing with, because I had this false sense of protection. Because being with a hood guy, you feel protected, and ain't nobody gonna mess with you, but you're nervous to go to bed at night, or you don't know if this cop is coming behind you because this person might have something in their car. You don't know if anybody's gonna roll up on you while you're with whoever. And it was just when we come out of the situation, of course hindsight is 2020, but you realize that it is very false. What you were looking for was very false. And it could be, maybe you were lacking a relationship with your dad, and this goes for men and women. Maybe you were lacking a relationship with your dad. Maybe you have abandonment issues. Maybe you did not have positive examples of what love was or what love is when you were a child, so therefore you're trying to figure that out as an adult, and you also translate that to how you treat your children. You weren't given love, you weren't shown love, so therefore you're incapable or you're unable to show that to your children as well. Being affectionate, getting affection from your children, or giving affection to your children. And I think this is where love languages come into play a lot too. But I've had these conversations over the years, of course, because things happen. And I think it was searching for something that you are not receiving. Correct, Steph. And I think that we will grow as a community, and we will grow individually if we are able to acknowledge that this is what it is, and that we are working towards the healing. And if you know that you have these issues, you probably don't need to be dating anybody. And if you do decide to date somebody, then it's not fair to the person for you to project your insecurities onto them, your traumas, especially if you're not able to communicate those things. I think that communication with someone who has had traumatic experiences is very difficult to do, but it's also very necessary, because the person that you're dating, the person that you're with, those close around you, even your friends, need to know your trigger points, or need to know certain things that has transpired in your life to make you feel or react the way that you're feeling or reacting. Hey guys, thank you guys for coming in. I just kind of had to get this off my chest before I forget, and I actually had the time today to do this, and it's just a discussion, and I really want to get y'all's take on it. For men, I realized that even for my homeboys or guys that I've talked to, guys that I've gotten to know, a lot of them are traumatized. A lot of their behaviors are from traumatic experiences from childhood, and they are not aware that that's what it is. So their inability to communicate, their thanks sis. I don't know if you talk about my hair or my makeup or maybe both, but this is not gonna last. This ain't gonna last long. It's starting to frizz up already. And D, it's not anything that my stylist did. It's just because there's a bunch of humidity in the air, and once humidity touches a silk press, that's it. But I didn't press my hair for the longevity. I pressed it because I needed a good haircut. But thank you, boo. But hey guys. But I think that it's very important for us to acknowledge, and for men to acknowledge, that they do have some hurt, and it's okay. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you sensitive. It doesn't emasculate you because you were traumatized by something. It could be just from growing up in the hood, and you were, raised off of survival. So the way that you think and the behaviors that you exhibit, the way that you show love, is different for people who didn't grow up in that type of lifestyle, and knowing that that's what it is. I think a lot of it is just the acknowledgement that we need to have meaningful and healthy relationships and friendships too, because a lot of this stuff does affect friendships. Like, someone's inability to trust someone should not be projected onto someone else. If you trust people, not someone, but trust people as a whole, that's because something happened to you that you are not yet healed from. And it's beneficial to you to figure out what that is, and where it started from, and where it stems from, and how it's affected your friendships along the way. Because trying to remember some stuff from UF. When you have trauma as a child, your brain is still developing. So when you have trauma as a child, your ability to progress emotionally is stunted. Your emotional intelligence is stunted. So that's why you have some people who literally are adults, but they act like children. They're adult age, but they act like children. It's because more than likely you're probably traumatized, and whatever. And I learned this from a therapist and a psychologist, a child psychologist that I was working with when I was previously in child welfare. And I learned that when children are traumatized, because their brains are still developing, and there's certain things that happens in certain parts of the brain. I believe your frontal lobe is for thinking and cognition. So therefore, when trauma happens, it's kind of stunted a little bit. And okay, what don't you get, Boss Brown? Tell me what don't you get? So your thinking and your emotional intelligence and your fight or flight is kind of stunted a little bit. So depending on your personality, you're going to end up being a fight or a flight. So if trauma happens to you, you're either going to go into survival mode, or maybe you're going to retreat, which is the survival mode, and fighting is the fight, and the retreating and kind of being and running away from conflict is the flight. So if anybody watches Insecure, it's very, very similar kind of to Molly and Issa. Issa is a flight person. She does not like conflict at all. She is not going to deal with it. Molly, I would say, is a fight, but she's fighting the wrong people. Molly's a fight, but she's fighting the wrong people. But it is it's imperative that we take a look at the things that have happened to us. I'm 32, so I oftentimes do a highlight reel of things that have happened to me, or things that I've allowed myself to happen because I was looking for something. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with romance or romantic involvement. It can be love, or attention. If you didn't get attention as a kid, and so you kind of do stuff to crave it, and you crave the attention as an adult because you didn't get it as a child. You didn't feel like you were being seen, and so now you have to do flamboyant things, and you have to be the center of attention all the time, and you have to be talked about. You have to just do things to get people talking about you. Sometimes that is linked to trauma. It sometimes has nothing to do with someone's personality necessarily. So I think that me and Dee were talking, and we're just like, some of the stuff that we have observed, and some of our own experiences, we realize, our friendships or even our relationships, the type of people that we dated or were interested in, was because of the things that we went through. And also as a parent, realizing that it can also affect how you parent. It can affect how you are affectionate with your children. It can affect how you show love. It can affect how your children view you. And going back to the men, our thing was we don't want to one up. Like, as a black woman, I don't want my black men around me to feel like I'm one-upping them in my trauma or one-upping them in the things that I go through, because at the end of the day, we're all one unit, and we all go through stuff individually, but it's still collective, because what affects you does affect me, and what affects me affects you guys. So thank you, Carrie. And it's a cycle, and we have to stop thinking that black men have it worse than black women, or black women have it worse than black men. We all got it bad. We are all at the bottom. We're at the bottom of the totem pole. Yes, black women, we are at the bottom. But that doesn't mean that the plight of the black man is any easier than the plight of the black woman. We just have different struggles. And I think that once we get to a point where we can collectively say, you know what, I have this problem and I have this trauma, and I was raised this particular way, or I was shown this idea of love, or I was not shown love at all, so now I act this way. The way that we operate in relationships, and the way that we view relationships, and the way that we view friendships would totally increase, because we would have done the work for ourselves. And I think that as a community, we do ourselves a disservice by not doing that. And what's up, Brandon? What's up, LB? We do ourselves a disservice by continuing the cycle of not addressing it and not healing from it too. You don't like, you don't like ice cream. So now anybody who likes ice cream is a poo-poo head. Like, no, that's not it. You don't like ice cream because maybe you were sick one day and you had ice cream that made you throw up. And so since then, your body has now reacted to ice cream by throwing up. And so you can't understand why anybody who likes ice cream, like, you don't understand why anybody likes ice cream now. Same thing with me. Like, me with ramen noodle soups, I can't eat them anymore. But that doesn't mean that anybody who eats them is crazy. No, I was sick when I was a child and living in New York, and I made some ramen noodles and I threw up. And since then, my brain has attributed ramen noodles to vomiting. So every other time that I try to eat them, I throw up. So I just realized I just can't do it. So I think it's the same thing. It's a weird analogy, but it works the same way. So I have to deal with that myself. So that doesn't mean that I'm to project my issues with ramen noodles onto someone else. No, I'm aware and I know what it is that I can't take, and I know what it is I can't do. So therefore I say, okay, you know what? Hey, you're gonna make soup. Can you not put any ramen noodles in there, because it's not gonna, it's gonna mess with my stomach and my brain and all that kind of stuff. So just to say that, as a whole, we as a Black community, we have to continue to do better at dealing with our trauma, getting therapy. You can have therapy in Jesus. It's okay. What's up, Daquan? You can have therapy in Jesus. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think it's important that we are aware that mental health issues and or problems arise, and we need help sometimes with sorting through those problems. And just because you go to therapy doesn't mean you have a mental health diagnosis. You don't necessarily have an illness either. You just kind of need help to figure things out. So hopefully this little tidbit helps. But for the guys, I kind of want to ask y'all, how do you guys deal with your trauma? Not necessarily, okay, how do men as a whole? You guys don't necessarily have to tell me about your own personal trauma, but how do men as a whole? What's up, Key? What's up, Kimar? How do men as a whole in your circles deal with trauma? Do you guys just maybe self-medicate? Do y'all just go to happy hour? Do y'all just take it out on Call of Duty? Do you talk to your homies about stuff that has happened? If you go to church, do you talk to your pastor? Do you talk to other men in the church? If you have a mentorship, do you talk to your mentor? Like how do the men on here, if you guys are willing to share, how do you guys deal with that? Because I think that it's really important. Women are much more vocal when it comes to stuff like this. And part of the issues that we have is we see the hurt and we see the pain that y'all are going through, but you guys are not in a space to talk about it. You don't even want to crack the door a little bit. And I think that it causes strife in your friendships and relationships, because you may have a homegirl, you may have a woman. Thanks, Daquan. It ain't gonna last long. It's not gonna last long. I doubt it lasts until Saturday. Do you like what do y'all do? Like, when we talk, but if we're having an issue with our guy and we see that, he has a problem, how do y'all want us to address it? Do y'all want us to not say anything? Do you guys shrug it off and keep it moving? But does that fix the problem though, boss? If you shrug it off, you're just sweeping it under the rug. So in the long run, how does that assist with the issue? Because the issue isn't going away. The hurt and the trauma isn't going away. So how do you deal with it? How do you rectify it in a sense? Now, of course, we know certain things are not necessarily, you can't rectify everything, but is that healing from it? And then how does that not transcend to other relationships? You cook, Kamar, you cook food, and that could be a therapy, but it doesn't make the problem go away. It doesn't make the problem go away. And are you healing from it? How do you heal? Do you guys not think it's important? Or if leave it. So if you leave it,
I want to make your bed clean.
Stop. Leave it and put them. Thank you. So try, and if he's not open, leave it alone. try, and if he's not open, leave it alone. So what if it's something that's affecting the relationship though? Because we don't speak on everything, but we speak on things that we feel are affecting the relationship. Now, I'm not saying that she needs to bug and like, try and pry it out of him. But I think sometimes we do feel like we have to try and pry it out, because if we don't, it's never going to be discussed. So how do we do that? What's up, Mel? I know I'm doing 2 lives in one day, but my memory isn't too well. So if I don't do it now, it's not going in my time. If I don't do it now, it's not going to get done. Hey you guys. So how do as a partner, if I'm your partner, how do I address an issue with you that we see is affecting the way that our relationship is? How do we do that? Because kind of gone are the days of women who are just silent. Gone are the days of the women who are just silent. A lot of us are aware that things occur, and we're aware of things happening. So how do we help y'all? Or do we not help y'all? What do we do? Hey Gabby. But yeah, that was it. Just kind of wanted everybody to heal, man, because we can't progress as a unit. We can't progress as a community if we don't heal from our traumas. And it's going to be a continued cycle, and also calling out stuff when we see it. It's going to continue to affect generations down the road, and we already have an issue with unity, just doing small stuff. Like I was telling Dee, she has a much bigger following on social media than I do. She is growing. She is progressing. I'm so proud of my dog. So me as a stylist, this is just a little segue. But me as a stylist, it's nothing to me to give my homie a shout out. Not necessarily that she may even need it, but you never know who I know may need her, that can progress her and catapult her to something else. So in the Black community, we have a tendency to be very crabs in the barrel. Like there's not enough money to go around, and our target audience and our target clients are not necessarily the same type of people. So if it can help and it can assist, what is it to share or make a post with her doing my hair? I personally have no problem doing that. Okay, hold on, back to the original topic. Boss said it depends on what it is. I think just try to talk, and if he don't want to talk, give him space to think about it, and he'll come talk when he is ready. I agree. I think time and also trust. The same thing with women. We also talk about trust, and we don't open up because we don't trust people and all that kind of stuff. I think we don't give men enough room for that same notion, and I think that we often are very selfish when it comes to that area, because when we want to talk about it, we want to talk about it because we see that it's a problem, but we don't realize that there's certain issues that you guys don't want to talk about at the time, and we have to give you guys space. Now the problem is how much space, and is this going to be resolved, or are we going to be able to have a meaningful conversation at some point in time? So yeah, I think that's it. Hey Schneider, hey Rainey, hey Shannon, thank you guys. But yeah, that's it. I just kind of had to get that off my chest before I forgot and before the rest of my week got hectic. But I am praying that we're all doing okay throughout this quarantine, and that's it. So peace.